born in August 1942. 2 years, 3 months later, I come into the world. I come into an already occupied Holland. I come into a Holland where the Jewish people have already been caught in the process of being separated from the rest of the community. Well, I have two memories from the war years, only two, which is remarkable given how young I was. I remember there was bombing in the area where I was hidden on a farm. I remember being rushed into a closet with a hobby horse. If you were Jewish, you didn't know from the next hour, the next day, whether you would survive. You lived with an absolute heightened state of terror. Germans had convinced themselves, and a lot of other people, that Jewish people were not human beings. Their racism was so wacko and out there. It gave people permission to behave terribly to Jewish people, and they did it because they could. We're taught that there are actions and there are consequences, and often those actions and consequences have something to do with each other. This was a period where, by and large, that was not so. The people who risked their lives to save me and my parents were Gentiles. Their religious voice called them out to be upstanders, so I have to honor that. The worst people in the world became the law, became the government, became the power. The world was upside down. I don't consider luck a divine attribute. Luck is luck. And I consider myself and the survivors I know the luckiest people I know. And I'm also fortunate that I had smart, courageous parents, and there were Gentile people who took a terrible risk, who hid me and hid my parents. I understood that I had a task in front of me, that people talk about people having reasons for their lives or having tasks or chores. And I feel really obligated to tell the story. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And some people have said, well, don't you find it burdensome? I said, no, not at all. By saying this may sound like a science fiction story, but it really happened in the world that we all share. This stuff happened. First of all, I don't believe there's such a thing as fiction. Whatever we write has happened to someone at some point, is going to happen within the next 24 hours to somebody. Because all we can imagine comes from what our experiences have been. You come from a shattered world. You're bereft of tradition, and you have to make it up for yourself. I love making art more than anything else. Making it, for me, is a visceral, sensual process. I look forward to the time of the day when I can sit down and draw. I love beautiful people, beautiful men and women, but I'm really inspired by beauty I see in the natural world. I'm a happy boy. Everybody brings their own story to everything they look at. Now, art, I understand, for me, was a wonderful refuge because it allowed me to be safely the outsider, the person outside of the story, even though I've come to, my smarter self has come to understand no one is outside of any story. We're all inside a story. In terms of subject matter and art and being a survivor, most of the time I think of my art as a place to go to when I don't want to deal with the story, the awful dark story. I go to art, and I consider myself lucky to have art as a form of expression. I come from a culture that was exploded and destroyed. So, where is my community from which I learn how to be a human being, how to be an artist, how to be a Jewish adult man? In my art, I've had to put together pieces that come from different contexts, but they work, and my aesthetic journey and task has been to make them work, as I've had to make my life work. So I had no ideas about Judaism except that it was a very unsafe thing to be. And then I figured, I paid so dearly, so early on for my Jewish identity. Let me find out what the treasures are, and there are many treasures. Here's the thing. I know my story. I have no other words of wisdom. I'm just like you, like anyone else. I just have this particular story from which I try and learn. And the only words of wisdom I can impart are having to do with this terrible matter of how do we treat the other. Because we have for so long been the other. The three things that I always say is kindness, kindness, and kindness. Be compassionate and be honest with yourself. And don't be afraid. Because we're all imperfect, we're all human beings. What we say about other people, at some point no doubt has been our story too. We're all human beings. We're miserable, imperfect creatures filled with hope, filled with desire and hope and nuttiness.